Was the Coca-Cola recipe just discovered in an ancient monastery? Well, as we all know, the original piece of paper where Coca-Cola's secret recipe is written has been behind a giant vault for over 100 years. But this week, a pretty incredible discovery was accidentally made in Italy when a priest was going through ancient archives in a 576-year-old pharmacy in Florence. He stumbled across a recipe for a restorative wine elixir, which had the exact same ingredients used in the original version of Coca-Cola, created by the American pharmacist John Pemberton. But what's even more interesting is that the document discovered this week in Florence was written in the mid-1800s, roughly 30 years before the original Coca-Cola recipe. Now, there's no evidence to suggest that these two are connected, but it does mean that the drink, which today sells over 2.2 billion units every day, may not have been the first of its kind.
In my opinion, a beverage does not deserve a vault. That's not a secret you're hiding. That's quite literally a red flag.
Throw back to when this completely innocent Pokemon got banned forever by the company's executives and took the fall for something another Pokemon did, all because he wasn't as popular. You see, back in 1997, the 38th episode of the Pokemon anime aired in Japan, but within hours, almost 700 kids had already been rushed to the hospital. Since each animation frame back then had to be drawn by hand, it just so happened that in that particular episode, when Pikachu used his Thunderbolt attack, it created these rapidly flickering red and blue lights that instantly caused anyone with epilepsy to start having seizures. In the end, almost 12,000 kids reported experiencing some sort of negative effect, like vomiting, temporary blindness, or disorientation. And as you can probably imagine, the backlash was pretty intense. Nintendo's stock plummeted, the episode was banned forever, and the entire anime had to be paused for 4 months. But since the Nintendo team just felt they needed someone to take the fall, and it obviously couldn't be Pikachu, as this one article put it, Porygon became the scapegoat, never to appear in another anime episode again. Even though he had literally done nothing wrong, since that episode was titled after him, for the past 30 years, both Porygon and his evolutions have basically been erased from the anime. And although Nintendo never officially confirmed this was intentional, in 2020, the official Pokemon Twitter account posted, Porygon did nothing wrong before he was quickly deleted soon after.
Even something as innocent as Pokemon needs a scapegoat in this world, it seems.
I'm not too sure if this is actually meant to be scary, but in my opinion, it's more interesting than anything else. This video shows multiple images and anatomical diagrams of the human brain, and it has a very basic statement. Scary fact, the brain named itself. Now, of course, this is not scary. This is just literally true. Your brain is you. This is how you take in the world. Your brain is your perception of reality. Our brain is what allows us to reason, be creative, and be human. So yeah, anything that's been named around you was named by your brain, including itself. What's even more interesting to think about, in my opinion, is when you look in the mirror, you're not actually looking at you. You're looking at the shell of what carries you around right up here. I also think language itself is fascinating. There are multiple different ways out there to say brain, so technically the brain named itself in a variety of different ways depending on your potential geographical location or the language that you speak.
I don't like this one because it sounds eerie and yet it is just plainly true. To get a little philosophical, is the brain where consciousness itself lies? That is a big question, isn't it?
The fruit that most of you have eaten as candy is strong enough to clean metal. I hope I'm doing it correctly. Tamarind has been one of the most eaten fruits on Earth for thousands of years. Before lemons were common, tamarind was how most of the world added sourness to food. But in India, it's been used for centuries as a cleaning agent. Is it working? Temple statues across India are still cleaned with tamarind paste today. That's because tamarind has something called tartaric acid. It's one of the strongest natural acids found in most of your foods. Tartaric acid chemically dissolves the brown and green buildup that forms on copper. So every time you've eaten something sour with tamarind, your mouth has been doing what a metal polisher does, which is pretty insane.
So this one actually checks out because tamarind is loaded with tartaric acid and people have scrubbed brass and copper with it for generations. Your childhood sweets have quietly been moonlighting as metal polish, better than some of the candies today with a lot worse, right? Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is NEXOR. Basically, my job is to take you down the rabbit hole, and it's not to find the bomb, it's to find the thread which resides in amongst all the noise and all the static and extract it and practice our discernment along the way. So if you're into that, there's a lot more lined up for you. Just keep on watching. If you are new, I'd ask that you hit subscribe now because we're trying to hit 200,000 subs before the beginning of September. If every single person who watched these episodes did that right now, we would absolutely annihilate that goal. But with that being said, I'll stop prattling on. Let's crack on with the rest of this episode. seal doing a New England accent to tell people to clear off. That's fair enough. Sounds a bit like my grandfather.
Let's find out what's really living in tap water. I'm going to look at a drop of tap water under the microscope. Will there be microorganisms? Let's have a look. Oh, spaghetti! Ha, jokes. I was joking, that does not come out of your tap. It appears that there is not much going on in this sample of water. Well, in terms of life anyway. I even used my bacterial lens to have a look. A bit of debris, but may or may not even be bacteria. What water sample should we look at next under the microscope?
Oh, the old bait and switch, though I challenge him to do a sample from Flint, Michigan and get back to us about whether the water is drinkable or not.
Looking at his body language, is his urgency inspiring or concerning?
The whole time this place has been developed, it's been like down to you're counting every minute and second.
I told the crane operators, what would you do if there's an asteroid heading to this planet in 8 days?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they were told today.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe there is.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I think if we operate with extreme urgency, then we have a chance of making life multiplanetary. Still just a chance, not for sure. If we don't act with extreme urgency, that chance is probably zero.
Telling the crane crew that an asteroid is 8 days away so they would graft harder, in reality would do the complete opposite, right? Because if that was the case, you would think each and every one of them would say, screw the job, I'm going to enjoy my last 8 days alive, not build a ship for the elites to cart themselves off to safety somewhere, you know, or at least that's what I would do.
I get how this could stop a train, but this brought a whole metro station to a halt. A visually impaired passenger accidentally dropped his white cane onto the tracks, and a few seconds later, this happened. It wasn't a walking stick exploding, but because the cane touched the electrified rail, it created an electrical arc. And that arc, it was so hot, it turned the surrounding air into glowing plasma, creating that enormous flash. Thankfully, nobody was injured, and I hope somebody helped him out afterwards.
Do something like that here in the UK and you would probably be arrested. I'm joking, of course, I think. A massive thank you to every person you see on screen here because they stop me having to do ad reads, brand deals, sponsors, or anything like that, trying to sell you a VPN, which is just going to steal your data, all that nonsense, right? Genuinely, that is because of them. And they offset some of the running costs of the production of all of these episodes. It means I can do it every single day. So massive gratitude from myself, and I'm sure the comment section will join me in appreciating every single one of you for the support that you grant me, because it enables me to make those videos for them too. If you want to join them, there is a link down below. I'm not asking you to do that, it's just an option. I've never asked for anyone to join it, but hey presto, here we are. There's nearly 200 of you and I couldn't say thank you enough. But yeah, enough of that. Let's crack on with the rest of this episode.
In 2021, Congress added provisions to an infrastructure bill that require automakers to install infrared cameras and sensors in every vehicle. These cameras and sensors will create a constant biometric assessment of driver alertness and sobriety, of course for your safety. If the integrated artificial intelligence systems determine that you're drunk or tired, it could prevent the car from turning on or limit your vehicle's speed. The regulation eliminates privacy inside of your personal vehicle. The sensors inside your vehicle will constantly track eye movement, pupil dilation, and drowsiness patterns. Starting next year, sensors and cameras will be found in every vehicle sold in the United States.
So there's a phrase in there doing a lot of the work. For your safety, a camera on your face the whole drive, reading your eyes, your pupils, judging whether it reckons you are tired, stressed, constipated maybe, and all of it sold to you as a favor. Sobriety now, the drowsy setting next, and then whatever they bolt on the quarter after, because nobody hands you a surveillance grid in one go, do they? They hand over one reasonable little safety measure at a time until it replaces every feature in your car which isn't part of the surveillance grid to turn that car into a utility for them to use as part of this grid.
A man and a woman at either a hotel or an apartment complex entered a utility closet where they believed they heard muffled screams coming from beyond the walls. After this video was posted, people debated in the comments on whether or not they believed this was actually a person that needed help or if this could have just been the pipes making noise. And this whole situation has gotten to a point where people are actually calling for police to go and investigate even further. I want you to listen to the video for yourself and let me know what you think is going on in the comments.
police or something? I don't know. Yeah, what is this? There's someone's crying inside. Hello? Hey! Are you okay?
It doesn't sound like the pipes, but it could be. We just don't know. It went viral and with no updates, so my guess is it's a nothing burger.
Dads and children have co-evolved to prefer to play with each other. When you're a parent, you will get a peak in oxytocin from certain behaviours you do with your child. If you're a dad, that peak in oxytocin comes from playing with your kid. And then when we look at kids, when the peak in oxytocin release they get when they're playing with their dads, again, isn't when daddy gives me a cuddle, which is nice, but, you know, I don't get a big release. It's when I play with daddy.
So is that different to women?
Yes. So women get their peak in oxytocin release from nurturing their children, particularly from hugging them. And kids get their peak in oxytocin when they interact with mum from mum's cuddles, not from playing with mum. So naturally, kids kind of gravitate towards dads when they want to have fun. That's the kind of thing he will choose to do with his child. Something that's physical, something that's stimulatory. And that's what's really interesting. And that's, in a way, why dads kind of got the moniker of, oh, you're the fun parent, you do all the fun stuff. But actually, play is fundamental to a child's development.
I'm rather taken with this bit of science. Play matters far more than we tend to let on. Shame it's being replaced with so much screen time.
The megalithic tombs of the giants, according to legend in Sardinia, they were associated with the bodies of giants. But of course today you have armchair archaeologists who'll say that's just a myth.
Where are you getting this information?
Oh, this is known in Sardinia. I spent a lot of time researching the tombs of the giants in Sardinia and talking to various experts.
And who are these experts, like local historians? Like what?
Some of them, yeah. You can also go to the museums in Sardinia and read a lot of this stuff. And they have little models in the museum of the tombs of the giants. And there's a legend in Sardinia. It's called the rite of incubation. And this is a necromantic rite that was practiced by the Sardinians. And it describes the purpose of the tombs.
The tombs and megaliths are real. It is the giant skeletons that never reach a museum mind. And that is my usual stop. Poke these sites for a century and what do you get? No idea, and we probably will never know.
Can somebody explain to me who the hell is this right here? Shut up! Who is this guy, dogs? Because this ain't Usher, bro. People are saying that he's sending somebody else out to these concerts, allegedly. This is not Usher. Look how he's dancing. I could dance better than this. What is he wearing? Why is his hat like that? Why does he have shades on? Who in the world is this guy? They're gonna have to get a better person to play Usher, bro. Because this dude can't dance for nothing, bro. Straight up and down. Who's this? Huh? Who is this guy right here? Because people are saying that this is not Usher. Now, I don't know what in the world this guy is wearing, but I know a few people that barely have clothes that could dress better than this guy, bro. I don't know what's going on out here, guys, but we got to stop going along with this, guys. Allegedly, this is Usher, new and improved. Look at him. Look at him. That's not Usher, bro. Allegedly, this is what people are saying. Something's going on with this guy. We've seen multiple versions of him over the years. I'm not sure if the real Usher is doing something else, but something's going on here, bro. I don't know what type of dance moves is this. Usher used to be able to dance. This dude is not dancing. Yo, this has to stop, dogs. I don't know what in the world he's doing right here. He got his leg up like he's doing a kung fu kick. Something is up with Usher, bro, and we had enough of this. I'm just playing around, guys. Entertainment purposes only. Usher is back, bro. He got a new stylist now, you know what I mean? He got the hat low with the glasses so you can't see who he is. All I know is that something's going on. Is this Usher or it's not Usher? I don't know. Let me know. I wouldn't know who this is. I'm in my car. I'm out.
I'll be quick with this one, okay? Because he tells you himself at the end that it is entertainment purposes only, which is the biggest clue as to why we can't really go deeper on it. But the stunt double celebrity theory, well, it has always been plausible to me that, you know, it's just my opinion, still a better dancer than me too.
We have some good things happening in the world right now. A new world record was just set for the fastest mile by someone for the first time in over 27 years. A woman in Mexico was reunited with her dog that had been missing for over a month after she saw videos of her dog partying in the streets after a Mexico win in the World Cup. A father posted on social media recently a photo of his son next to the 100 kilometers an hour on his speedometer to remind himself and everyone else that sees this what is at stake when you speed. Hurricane Helene nearly wiped out an entire species of salamander. They all existed within a 14-mile North Carolina gorge, smaller than a tennis 1/10 of the size of Disney World. Luckily, there were scientists who climbed into the landslides and rescued 15 of them, 4 of them being pregnant females. They have been since living at the North Carolina Zoo, breeding and being released again. 74 years after a plane crashed that ended the lives of 52 people, a search team that was working with the Discovery Channel discovered the plane wreckage off the coast of Puerto Rico. There is a big volunteer group that is now spread to over 6 states that are leaving $5 coffee gift cards on cars that are left outside of bars overnight. They're to thank people for choosing not to drink and drive.
So we are due a bit of good news, and I will happily take it. A record mile, a dog found because it went viral partying after a win, salamanders carried out of a landslide by hand, and people turn out mostly alright when a camera is not paying them to be awful. Nice to be reminded of that. Nonsense, most of it, and I say that as someone who finds the pyramids properly staggering. But the second you circle a chariot carving and shout aliens, something real curdles into an intentional misdirection. Clever ancestors, yes. Flying saucers in their hieroglyphs? I don't think so. Not ones that they put there anyway.
Anyone else watching that Florida governor candidate Bobby Williams talk about how socialism is women wanting off after they give birth? When asked how many days should women get for giving birth, he says 1 to 2 days. People were like, oh no, you edited that interview of Bobby Williams to make him look bad. So then they released the unedited version and it's even worse.
Do you support maternity leave, paid maternity leave for mothers?
No, ma'am.
Why do you say that?
Well, so we start supporting stuff, when does it end? You know what I'm saying? But, we live in a generation that's got to work. We keep giving and giving and giving and giving. It comes to a point, when's enough? It's back to, we don't live in a socialist country, so you can't just give to one individual. It's an economic status. We live in a capitalist country, we got to quit being socialist. So there's some people out there that are wealthy that can do that, but I know many women who have a baby and go to work next day.
This guy stating that he knows too many women who go back to work the day after giving birth. You get 24 hours to give birth to your child, and then this guy who is running for governor wants us to go back to work the next day.
Something we should give it now, maybe a day or two or something like that, but full maternity leave and that kind of stuff.
Claiming to know multiple women who have done it, but then asked why? Because they were too poor to pay their bills and had to go back to work so they could afford to live.
Obviously, you work to get out of poverty, you got to make that difference. It's sacrifice, and we have to have sacrifice in life, Christians, you learn to sacrifice, you crucify your flesh, right, to live in a spiritual realm, so I believe that it ain't something we should give it now, maybe a day or two or something like that, but full maternity leave kind of stuff, it's back to fruit. I see too many women who can do it. I think today we've created a lazy generation to where what's next? Maternity leave, or you see sick pay right now, and you see that, and you see people take advantage of it. So my thing is enough's enough of just charity and giving out.
Stating that you can't just give people time off. It's too charitable. But then he makes sure to let us know that he's actually a very charitable guy.
I'm a charitable person, I'm obviously around a ministry that helps people, but there's a difference in enabling and then creating a socialist country.
Even for women who have just given birth, the whole thing is horrific. And we're talking about a man who talks about his family values.
Good grief, a day or two after giving birth and asking for anything more is apparently socialism now. So when exactly did recovery become a handout?
So you're telling me secret tunnels were found under a castle in Milan, Italy, and they just happened to match up with sketches done by Leonardo da Vinci, and one of the tunnels just happens to lead to the Basilica where he painted the Last Supper. You guys. Okay, so some historians and researchers believe that Leonardo may have had something to do with the construction of these tunnels. However, I personally think the tunnels were actually already there. So in 1450, Francesco Sforza ordered the rebuild of this castle over ruins of a medieval fortress. Now, when he passed away, Ludovico took over the renovations and he hired people like master architect Bramante and Leonardo da Vinci. There was a known tunnel system under this castle. However, when researchers from the Polytechnic University of Milan came in to do scans, they discovered the second tunnel system running parallel to the known one, and you can see that in Da Vinci's 15th century sketchbook. Now, when Ludovico commissioned Bramante to reconstruct the east side of the Basilica, guess which side the tunnel runs to? The east side. And apparently no one knows where the entrance is from the church into the tunnels. Yeah, okay. Anyway, now Ludovico married Beatrice in 1491, and he ordered the reconstruction of this basilica because he intended for it to be the official burial and mausoleum of the Sforza family. And he commissioned Da Vinci in 1495 to paint the Last Supper in the dining hall. Now, Da Vinci has thousands of sketches, and you can see in this one, it looks like he was practicing St. James for the Last Supper, and in the corner, it is the Castle Sforza. Now, Beatrice passed away in 1497, giving birth to their third son, who was a stillborn, and it's said that Ludovico was completely devastated, and some people think that he ordered the tunnels to be built. However, Bramante was finishing up construction in 1497. So either I think the tunnels were started in 1492, or the tunnel system was already there, because there was also the fortress. And with recent scans, there are more tunnels than anybody even anticipated. Now, according to this book I'm reading, Da Vinci did have it on his list to sketch Milan. So do you think he simply just sketched these tunnel systems that were already there? Or do you think the Sforza family had these built and Leonardo da Vinci had something to do with it?
2 tunnel systems under a Renaissance castle, while matching Da Vinci's own sketchbook in a passage that happens to run to the church holding the Last Supper. The sensible read is, well, the commentator or the narrator's own, okay, that the tunnels predate him and he only sketched what was already there. I believe that to be the case for many, many different theories, actually.
This poor man cannot catch a break. Tremaine is a guy who was stopped as he was walking to his hotel room by the receptionist who told him he can't bring food to his hotel room that he already paid for.
Snacks on it? That's not the snack, but it's bread and... What kind of hotel is this? This is... Huh? What kind? I've never heard of this. I've never heard you can't eat in the room. How do you... What if I would have had this in the bag? You would have never knew that I'm eating in the room. As I see you, I have to tell you that it's not allowed. What is the rule list? Do you have a list of rules?
On top of that, it also sounds like it's a very expensive international hotel because it required a $5,000 deposit. After he realizes that this woman is very serious, that they don't want him to bring food to his hotel room, he's like, okay, well, and then I'm just going to eat it here. And he's not being rude. In fact, he's still trying to like have a conversation and be cordial with this woman, but she's like intentionally being obtuse with him. Remember, this man's just trying to eat his meal while on vacation in Albania. He even asks her, have you had a hot dog from that vendor that's right outside? And she's like, no, I work inside of the hotel. And he's like, yeah, but it's right outside of the hotel. She's like, no, I've never been out there.
This is a Mediterranean hot dog that I just got from out there. Have you ever tried it before? Where did you go? No, Mediterranean hot dog? Right outside of the street. You know the guy, you work here, you know the little truck outside. Ever been out there? That's so weird. Why? You've never been outside? Wow, that's crazy. How do you come in? You teleport?
We should really start to wonder exactly what is going on here, because Tremaine also says that they have room service, so food is brought to these rooms. So politely asks for like a list of these rules that this woman does not provide for him, but he's already on vacation, so there's really nothing he can do besides just eat his food and then go up to his room. After this entire encounter, he's like, okay, well, I'm definitely going to leave a review, except when he goes on to Booking, which is how he booked this international hotel, this hotel does not allow him to leave a review. Based on what Tremaine has now been told through the booking company he used, is that hotels in this area can choose when to let people leave reviews, which would explain why when he looked up this hotel, it had like a 3.9 star review. Poor man's just trying to enjoy his vacation. This poor man has learned the hotel he's staying at in another country not only does not allow food in the room so that he can eat meals quietly in his room, also can't leave reviews of his experience.
These policies are usually set to keep rooms clean, prevent pest issues, or encourage guests to buy food from the hotel's own restaurants and room service. It's not really that deep.
Have you experienced anything spooky? Yeah, one of the people that we connected with was Stephen Greer. We went out to his place. We're just having these meetings with him, seeing if, like, are you legitimate? Some of the guys that were out there just witnessing to that. One of the questions that was asked, if all of these things about the crimes and these compartments and this and that is true, why aren't you dead? And he said, well, I'm protected. If anybody tries anything, they will be dealt with quickly. Steven said that. Wow. Yeah. So the second night there, I have a dream. There is a doorway. It was very, very black. And there's things standing there. And he just says, you can have anything you want. I just start saying, I reject that in Jesus' name. And every time that I would say that, this thing started going like, careful, careful. And so I pulled myself awake, and then something jumped on me in the bed. Whoa. Physically fighting. I finally get out. Jesus. I could feel this presence leave the room, go down the stairs and out the front door. Was this at Steven's house? Yes. It was in one of the guest bedrooms. Is that the thing that's protecting him? Went home. The next day. And in the dream of that night, I was back at Greer's place. Walk in his front entrance, and there's a woman standing, and she's just staring at me. She turned to this like 12, 15-foot thing. I could feel hatred. Whoa. And then I looked over. Greer was this dead body, completely black. Yeah. So another time I visited his house, I presented an edited version, and he said, oh, those are the warriors. I have these entities, and he said they protect. Yeah. We felt that the reason that occurred was because I was sharing the gospel.
Here's my little snag with the whole tale. Nothing from over there can lay a finger on anything over here. That's the one line I will hold on literally all of this. So a spirit physically wrestling a bloke in his own bed loses me on the spot. And notice how it is always Greer. That is really where I tune out. "200 nanometers of trouble that somehow photographs like fine art. It is oddly satisfying."
It's the hottest day ever recorded.
And sadly, we are being told more to come as more heatwaves make their way over Europe. Please wish me luck, guys.
What the going on here? I'm here for initiation.
You're to be a volunteer?
Just, you know, I got connections with like Elijah Walker. I got connections with like Peter Thiel. I got Larry Ellison on speed dial.
Okay, good.
I'm the perfect candidate for this. I'm ready. Hit my line.
What a pointless skit. People seem to not realize that a lot of these buildings have zero affiliation with that particular group, as they simply funded the building of or were the architects of said building.
That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fairly simple thing happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything you can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
Yeah, Carlin nailed it decades ago, and it has literally aged like wine. Keep everyone scrapping over race, religion, income, education, who fancies whom, and the ones running off with the money never once come up. Same story still running.
Jeszcze raz kliknij też.
Early this morning, when you knocked upon my door. Early this morning, when you knocked upon my door. And I say, hello, Satan, I believe it is time to go. Me and the devil.
Jeez, a Cold War doomsday bunker. There is something very us about turning the machine built to end the world into a day out with a gift shop.
It happened, guys. North Korea did it. They won the World Cup. Oh my goodness. What an incredible...
No? What? The news in North Korea right now. Oh, the news...
Absolute banger from Kim Jong-un in the 90th minute. Can you believe it? This guy is the greatest to ever do it. There is...
Since like early 1990s, they've been keep saying the same thing over and over again. It was like, guys, we did it again. We won the World Cup. Did they tell you they won the World Cup? No. No. I remember when I was in North Korea, like, I don't ever hearing about North Korean, like, soccer teams losing. They cherry pick, like, whatever they have and show it to us. I remember, like, seeing in the newspapers growing up in North Korea, how North Korean soccer teams won. Yeah, North Korean regime doesn't show the footages or the games that they lose.
Probably gonna do the same the next World Cup, and the next one, and the next one.
Of course, like, they wouldn't, like, exaggerate it exactly like that. Like, baby would realize that that's a propaganda.
We all know the North Korea routine by now. Only the wins air and the losers vanish. To be fair, that propaganda is easy to spot. Just don't kid yourself. It is only them. Everyone runs a version of this.
Whether you're religious or you're non-religious, I have some information that you need to consider. So please watch this video to the end. But do you know the Millennial Kingdom and the 1,000-year reign? I think it already happened and it already came. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. Over these the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And as you may not be aware, but our timeline is wrong. They've taken away 1,000 real years and replaced it with 1,000 false years of history, and called it the Dark Ages. It may be dark for some, but it was the enlightened ages for others, and it is said that when Christ's kingdom returns, believers will be transformed and be given new bodies. Maybe that's why all of these buildings had no kitchens or no bathrooms, because they didn't need to eat and they didn't produce any waste. And it's also said that God wouldn't destroy the world with a flood, but it would be fire next time. Maybe that's the reason for all these melted buildings and all of these ruins that we see throughout the world. With all of these buildings that we say that was founded or found empty, where did the people go? There was never no bodies or no skeletons. It's like they never died, because they didn't. They ascended, just like the rapture. Now when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations. I believe that's the time that we're living in now.
Now this is a proper tangle: buried buildings, ruins with no bodies, structures that look half melted, and I personally do think there is something to the reset idea, that civilizations get flattened and quietly rebuilt more often than the timeline actually will admit. But civilization resets and biblical great resets are two very different things, and this clip welds them together. We have divine resets and then we have forced resets. The only question is, which one are we approaching next?
Everyone you've ever met and will meet is actually you. This is the egg theory, which comes from Andy Weir's 2009 short story, The Egg, where this 48-year-old man gets in a car accident, dies, and suddenly finds himself face to face with God in this empty purgatory-like space. So the man asks what happened, if he's going to heaven or hell, and God tells him that he's going to neither. He's going to be reincarnated back on Earth, but it's not going to be in the future like one would expect. Instead, he's going to reincarnate back to medieval China as a peasant girl. And that's when things start to get a little bit weird. As they continue talking, he learns that every time he dies, he's reincarnated somewhere else in the human timeline. It could be the past, the present, or the future. So the man realizes that he could run into different incarnations of himself throughout different lifetimes. He'd be talking to himself, basically. And God finally explains that every other human being who has ever lived or will live is actually all of him. All other incarnations existing at the same time. All of humanity throughout the timeline, the whole universe. It's just this one singular consciousness. God explains that he created this universe as a kind of egg, so this singular consciousness or soul can experience every possible human life and slowly become something greater. And once he's finally experienced everything throughout all time within this particular universe, the egg hatches and the consciousness becomes a new god. And there's even brief mention or suggestion of other gods with their own universes doing the same thing. So kind of ties into multiverse theory a little bit. Now, this is just an idea, a theory. And there are some unsettling implications with this idea, like you're also living the lives of the most evil people who have ever existed, and then also the people who lived under them, since you're basically everybody. And to what end does this go? How much does this singular soul or consciousness need to go through before being ready to hatch? So, could the egg actually be a thing? Let me know what you think in the comments.
One soul living every life in turn until it graduates into something greater, which I find oddly comforting right up to the bit where it means you are also every villain and everyone they wrecked. Nice story, and I get the pull, though I would not found an entire religion on it.
Scientists were disturbed for decades over the wild boar paradox, but we finally have an answer to one of science's biggest mysteries. The Chernobyl disaster of '86 released the largest amount of uncontrolled radioactive material into the environment in human history. In the time since, the radiation levels of most affected animals has steadily declined, except for one. Nearly 40 years later, wild boars in parts of Germany and Austria are still surprisingly radioactive. And while everyone assumed this had to be from Chernobyl, the numbers just didn't add up. And it turns out there had been secret fallout hiding in the environment from nuclear weapons testing in the 50s and 60s. The radiation had been soaked up by underground organisms like deer truffles, which turned out to be one of the wild boar's favorite snacks.
Got a real soft spot for a paradox with a dull ending. Everyone blamed Chernobyl, but the numbers never lie. The culprit was 50s weapon testing soaked into the truffles the boars dug up, which is genuinely a better story than the one everyone assumed.
This is Saturn. What you just heard are real radio waves from Saturn, recorded by Cassini and made audible for us. Saturn seems calm, almost peaceful. But that's completely misleading. This planet has no solid ground. If you were to fly into it, there would be no point where you would land. You would simply be pulled downwards as the pressure intensifies. And it's no better on the outside. Storms with winds exceeding 1,800 kilometers per hour, some of which rage for years. At the North Pole, there's this perfect hexagon. Not chaos, but a huge, stable shape in the clouds, larger than Earth. To this day, no one can fully explain why it exists. Its magnetic field is also unusually uniform, almost too perfect. And that's precisely what makes it so difficult to figure out what's really happening inside. And these rings? Remnants of a moon that Saturn destroyed with its immense gravity alone. Saturn is not a peaceful planet. It is extreme, unpredictable, and deadly. And we are far from fully understanding it.
Saturn genuinely fascinates me, though not for the reasons the clip lists. The unexplained hexagon, distance from Earth, the numerology, all of it. I will one day get a telescope and get a good look at it myself.
SpaceX has filed to put 1 million AI satellites into orbit, but if we aren't careful, this could trap us here on Earth for good. Up in orbit, nothing ever really sits still. Every one of these huge spacecraft is moving at 27,000 kilometers per hour, and they aren't all going the same way. At that speed, a single fleck of paint carries the energy of a rifle bullet. A stray bolt hits like a hand grenade. And when two whole satellites cross paths, they meet at around 11 kilometers per second. So right now, Starlinks avoid colliding by flying themselves. Each one gets a constant stream of data on everything around it. And if something is coming, it fires its thrusters and slides out of the way. No human involved at all. In the first 6 months of 2025 alone, Starlink had to swerve more than 140,000 times. That's about 800 dodges per day. And that's just with the traffic today, with 15,000 satellites. Not a million. One collision doesn't just destroy two satellites. It smashes them into thousands of fragments, and every fragment then becomes its own bullet, on its own unpredictable orbit hunting for the next satellite, which then shatters into 1,000 more. We become trapped on Earth. To learn what we can do to stop this from happening, make sure you're following.
1 million satellites moving fast enough that a fleck of paint lands like a bullet. And the plan is to let them dodge each other on autopilot forever. So what could go wrong? Everything, apparently.
This Nolan brother wrote the blockbuster movie Interstellar and went on to create acclaimed shows like Westworld and Fallout. This Nolan brother directed Interstellar along with award-winning films like Inception, The Dark Knight, and The Odyssey, becoming one of the most celebrated filmmakers of all time. This Nolan brother was accused of kidnapping and murdering an American businessman in Costa Rica and later tried to escape federal custody. Christopher and Jonathan Nolan's older brother Matthew Nolan was arrested by the FBI in 2009 over the death of businessman Robert Cohen, whose beaten and tortured body was found beneath a bridge. Prosecutors allege the killing stemmed from a multi-million-dollar dispute, but a U.S. judge ruled the evidence too speculative to extradite Nolan, and he was never convicted of the murder. While he was jailed in Chicago, authorities uncovered an elaborate escape plot involving a hidden razor blade and a 31-foot rope made from knotted bed sheets, allegedly intending to help him escape through his cell window. Nolan later pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice, receiving 14 months in federal prison.
Ironically, that sounds like a movie plot in itself, but on that note, that is us for today. Once again, we went down the rabbit hole. It wasn't to find the bomb, it was to find the thread which resides in amongst all the noise and static, extract it, and practice our discernment along the way, and we did a fantastic job of that. If you enjoyed this episode, drop a like on the video, tell me what you enjoyed, tell me what you didn't enjoy, Tell me what you want to see more of. I'm always open to feedback. If you're new to this show, I do this every single day, so if I earn your subscription today, make sure you hit that notification bell on your way through. The most important thing that you can all do for me is stay safe, stay well, and stay curious. Until next time.